All right, we're back with another episode. First, the sponsors. Head over to johnbartoloshow.com. Go check out a complete list of the sponsors there. I want to thank a few of them now. Special thanks to Secure It. If you're building a safe in your house, there's no better place. Make your whole house a safe. Just put secure panels everywhere. Pulsar thermal imaging technology. Guys, hunt at night. Okay? It's easier. Buy a thermal. I want to thank Galco Leather Holsters, Rhino Metals, and of course, Full Courts and Firearms. Special shout out to Sig Sauer and Right On Optics and Kenzie's Optics. I want to give special thanks to Big Daddy Unlimited. We just recently had Tony on. It was a good episode. I know a lot of you are watching it now and catching up on the episodes. Appreciate him. I got a special guest today, one of my oldest friends in the business. I'm pumped to have him on. Who knows what there's a story I got to tell about him and I, but I have to kind of get semi-permission. I got the man himself, Rich Angstadt of Angstadt Arms.
What's up, John?
What's up, brother?
Man, thank you for inviting me.
It's crazy, right?
It's crazy. This is incredible what you've built here. And it's one thing to listen to the shows and then completely another thing to come in here and see this.
This is what it should be, right, though?
This is it. This is where everything is going. Right
I think so.
100%.
I mean, we're old enough to see it from both sides now.
For sure.
And we can see where it was and where it's going. And I think these are the steps. But I want to talk. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming in. But I want to talk about where you see and how you even got into Angstadt, because that's a great story, and it's going to lead to, because a lot of people will be shocked to even see you because you hide a little behind the scenes, which I guess really good. Can I tell the father-in-law story?
You can definitely tell.
All right, so we'll weave that in. But tell me how you got started with Angstadt Arms and where it all came from.
Yeah, so you know my background, but serial entrepreneur. So Angstadt Arms is really the second company that I started. Prior to this, I ran a digital marketing agency for 7 years, and really we ended up settling around the SEO PPC marketplace, and this is back 2007, so it's kind of that time frame where that was the hot thing to do. Ended up exiting out of that company, and I'm a longtime gun enthusiast, grew up around guns, love shooting guns, and it was just my passion. And you know, after I exited that other company, I had free time on my hands, so I was shooting all the time, and just little by little, you know, it's the cliche, right? You scratch your own itch. So I created that gun that I couldn't get at the time, which now it seems kind of laughable. You think that I couldn't get a small PCC that ran on Glock mags, right? That's right now everybody's got one of those, but in 2014, you really had to make that.
It was rare.
And so we were, you know, not the first, but we were I like to say the first people to do it right and execute really well. And that means, you know, function and form of it. So a beautiful firearm, one that's going to work reliably. And that's kind of it. We just started from there. It was a side project that became my next endeavor. And for me, it's a passion project. I absolutely love the firearms industry. The Angstadts, if you go back to 1800s, they were master gunsmiths.
Oh, here we go.
And so that's kind of that lineage, you know. And,
I love it.
My grandfather is the one that actually got me into firearms when I was little. And so trying to explain what we did with the search engine optimization company to him was, you know, at 93 years old, he wasn't getting it. But when I handed him the first gun, you know, serial number 1, he was like, oh, I get it. Yeah. I get it now. And so that's, for me, it's deeply personal, and just, I love doing it. It's
so wild because you told me bits and pieces of that story through the years. It is crazy. And for the longest time, to everybody out there listening, I would go by Rich's booth and I'd be like, if anybody wants to see anything different, I'm like, this is where you go. And I think I remember walking by and I was like, what the hell is this young guy doing, saying, you know, he run around saying he runs a company. It was kind of wild to me. And you know, I watched over the years the maturation of the brand and just what you were trying to do. And it was all done right, always, every step of the way. Very incremental, the right kind of growth, not overgrowing, not overstepping your bounds, slowly weaving the right people in and out as you needed them. And that's really a skill, and you've navigated it. But at what point in the business were you thinking, why the hell did I get in this business?
Yeah, there's so many easier ways to make money. Really, if you want to lose money, start making a gun, right, and get into the firearms industry, because the margins are really not there. They end up in the accessory side of the business, and you have all the additional red tape. You have the excise taxes. You've got everything against you getting into this, and you have, I'd say, the industry is kind of split. You have guys that are, you know, like yourself, very open and welcoming, letting people in, and there's a bunch of CEOs of companies that are like that.
Oh, there's pieces of shit.
But then you have people that are very closed off and wanting to protect kind of their piece of the pie. Really more
Gatekeepers
in there. But for me, if it wasn't a passion project, I wouldn't still be into it, right? And I think that's the same with any business that you get into, because you're going to have to eat shit for a long time, and so you better like the way it tastes until you come along.
Well, you understand marketing and sales. I mean, people want what I call microwave marketing now. They want it microwaved. You know what I mean? I tell people all the time, we do good food fast here, not fast food.
Yeah.
You can develop, it just takes time.
Yeah.
You just have to give it time. You know what I mean? I wanted to do this show at every brand I ever crossed paths with.
Yep.
No one saw the vision. So I was like, oh, fuck it. I'll do it on my own then.
Yeah.
And it was pretty clear. I thought this was one of the best ways to create media for the next 5 years, probably 3 years ago. We were talking about this, but it takes the ability to see that path, and sometimes only you see it. But like you said, when you hand someone the finished product, they're like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
Like the moment you walked in here, I'm sure you were like, all right, I get it now.
This was it. And I knew, going back, our relationship, we've known each other pretty much since right in the beginning. I think Chris put us in contact early on. I got that random phone call from you, and the rest is history. But seeing where you were going with it and just knowing how much work you were going to put in, I knew you were going to do it right. And this is, looking around, it's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I think every brand is going to eventually catch up and have something to this effect.
For sure.
In some square footage of their building. If they're going to do their marketing in building, if they're not going to go get a Madison Avenue firm, or they're not going to go get somebody to outsource it completely, because the environment's changing, and you're a wizard at this. I mean, you look out there and you see you cannot just walk up to booths anymore and say, I have an Instagram, give me a gun. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
The whole industry's changing, and how we approach ambassadors and influencers and marketing, and how we the connectivity between us and the end users changing. And that's why I think maybe SHOT's suffering so much, is there's that disconnect between who we're supposed to cater to. You know what I mean? We can give all these orgs money, but we can't question the marketing that's given to us. It's just kind of like, this is what it is. You want to buy a booth or a screw.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the giant mistakes with some of the orgs. Now, you're doing SHOT this year.
We are. Yep. We're all in this year. We're doing range day. We got a bigger and better booth that we have. And for us, it's there's still a good reason for us to be here.
There's a win for you.
There definitely is. And I think with a lot of the bigger companies pulling out, it's a chance for, myself and our company and some other companies in that mid-tier to kind of stand out a little bit more.
I think so. I think it's all, Matt Wolf said it best from Enforce. Matt said, he goes, every brand has to do an analysis. And for somebody like, maybe it's a SIG or somebody else that it costs a couple $1 million to augment their booth. I mean, what company wouldn't at that point say, you know what, we're better off pumping that a little bit into our infrastructure and developing something that's special. A brand like yours, maybe 3 or 4 years from now, you start looking at like the First Form model or other models saying, you know what, we're better off flying 10 people up and having them participate in Angstadt indoctrination of our brand, walk around, set up a range day, and take a nice intimate group to dinner, and something like that, and be able to spend time with them, whether it's 3-4 writers. I mean, am I right, Dave? This has been going on since the dawn of time anyway. I mean, everybody's been doing that. It's just taking on a new form.
Yeah, and that's where your strategic relationships are going to come into it, because now you're an arms manufacturer. You're going to partner with a ammo manufacturer, maybe an optics manufacturer, split your costs, and then you start not only creating media, but you start creating those strategic relationships between different brands as you do it.
Right.
Give you that flexibility.
I think what you're doing here, coupled with experiences in marketing, are really going to be the big things. And I think
they'll be the baseline.
Yeah, 100%. And I think in the firearms industry, we do experiences pretty poorly, because we think, oh, we're shooting guns, which is already amazing, and it's a machine gun, and most people don't get to shoot a full auto. So we're just going to let them do mag dump after mag dump, and that creates a great experience. And I think you really need to do so much more than that, because people aren't one-dimensional, right? They like so many other things besides guns. You really got to shape that whole experience if you're going to do something. Well, I think
you have to look at the opportunity, right? So let's say you're at SHOT Show. Is SHOT Show really a marketing thing? It is, but it's not. It's an opportunity for you to take a rapid fire approach to marketing if you have the ability to harness the people coming to your booth and you have an environment for that. A lot of brands don't do that or don't have the ability to do it because they're in a 10 by 10 or a 5 by a closet, basically. Yeah. And it's hard for them to get all the touches, but it's a great way to introduce them to the community for a number of years. So if they decide to run with a program of like 5 years with a trade show, any trade show, it doesn't matter what it is. Maybe not Great American Outdoor Show, but one of the it's 10 days long. It's a nightmare. But it's a great show. And I think you have to look at it and constantly do that analysis. Like, are we ready at home to bring these things in? And if so, at what scale? You know, maybe we can't do a wedding. You know what I mean? We could do something reasonable, but we have to look at the spend. And I tell a lot of owners the same thing. You're spending it now. You're just spending it in a different place. So you have to start to do a little bit of an analysis. Are we at the point where it's better for me to have that intimate experience? Can I do both? Can we afford to do both? But if so, on what scale? Maybe it's the thing at home, and maybe it's we go to SHOT and we sponsor a cocktail hour or whatever that is.
And that's a big portion of SHOT Show is after 5 o'clock, right? Which are those dinners that you're talking about
right now.
This is it right here. And a lot of the ideas we've had for guns have come, you know, with the team sitting around at dinner, just kicking around stuff and getting excited about something.
No one's ever taken my idea though, Rich. I've been
steal it right now.
I told you, Clint won't make the barrels for it at Ballistic, so I know it won't happen. And they keep laughing me out of every room. I want a 357 SIG PCC. That's what we want. We want a 357 SIG and PCC.
I don't have one barrel.
I don't get that it's
one
impractical.
Barrel. We could make one gun for you. And it's probably the last 357 SIG barrel in existence for a PCC.
It's the only suggestion I've ever made in my life in this business, and Clint just looks at me and goes, "We're not doing that."
He was probably like, "You'll literally sell tens of guns."
Yeah, he'll sell 5. But it's such a freaking uncharted territory still.
So I've learned that at SHOT Show, when people come up and say, "You should create this," do not do it, because if it was a good idea, it would already be done. And it's always this oddball caliber that somebody wants, and it's him and his buddy. So that's kind of a rule of thumb. If somebody says, whatever this is, build this, I'm not.
That's my favorite thing about SHOT. My only favorite thing about SHOT Show is the people that do roll up and say, "I got an idea." Like I want a microphone.
Idea.
I love it.
Sign this NDA.
Rich. Now, I know that 10 millimeter has been a hard one to harness, and you know I'm a huge fan of that. We've seen over the years at SHOT Show people try to release a 10 millimeter PCC. What's the struggle with 10 millimeter, and why has it been so hard? Explain that to everyone.
Yeah, so most PCs are straight blowback in there, so it requires a really heavy bolt to work. So with 9 millimeter and 45, that's really not an issue, because 9 millimeter is pretty weak as far as the energy it's creating. But 10 mil is a different animal altogether. You know, if you have a 9 mil go out of battery discharge into there, you're like, oh, that was kind of scary.
Right.
10 mil, you got to change your pants, right? And so that in itself, it's not a great way to run that round with the PCC. Now, if you were to take what we've done with the MDP, our new gun, the roller delayed, right? That's no longer relies on a really heavy bolt. You use the rollers to absorb a lot of that energy. You can make the 10 mil, and you can make it really pleasant to shoot in a PCC. And that's probably the right way to do it. Yeah.
It's been a struggle of everybody to try to get that put out there. And I think it's just the long-term effects of that energy on the gun. You just don't get it can be done. It's just, you don't get the wear and tear.
Yep.
You know, you almost have to go into it like it's a 7 millimeter rifle. Like you're only going to get so many rounds through the barrel, because it's just going to tear through.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna beat up on a lot of components. And it goes back to that, you know, anytime you get away from the major calibers, right? So 9 mil, 22, 5.56, the amount of units you're going to sell, it just dramatically falls off.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing that manufacturers are looking at, because basically they want to come up with a new gun, and then for the next 5 years just sell that gun and know what they're getting.
Well, we watched everybody get high on what was it, that was it 227, whatever the fuck, what was Valkyrie, whatever, 224 Valkyrie. And I told Clint, if you're listening, I know you're listening, I will clip this to give it to you. I told Clint, I said, that will never sell. And he's like, you're crazy, because he got caught up in the ballistics of it. And I said, there's just no ammo availability.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to.
It comes down to ammo availability and ammo price.
And price.
Too. That's the thing. Everybody is really, you know, they'll spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a gun, but they won't spend any money to feed it.
Yeah. The only reason 300 Blackout stuck around was because it became enough of an in-between novelty round that people wanted a little more push than a 223, but didn't necessarily want to make the leap to 308.
For sure. And if you've got a dedicated suppressor platform, 300 Blackout is just an awesome experience.
It's fucking the best. I love it. I love all three. That's why the moment you launched one, I was like, I gotta have this thing.
Oh, yeah.
The thing is the shit. If you haven't checked out Rich's stuff and you're in the chat, I know Eric and everybody's been sharing the links and stuff. Please go check out his stuff. You'll fall in love. And he showed me something in a case that's G14 classified. I think. I think it is. I'm not sure.
You can pull it out. You can show it.
It's pretty ridiculous. We'll get that over here. We'll definitely take a look at it. But you guys have to see this. It's quite impressive.
Thank you.
Now, how long does it take to develop something like that?
We've been working on that one for, I would say before so let me go back in time. Last SHOT Show 2 years ago are when we demoed it at range day, ran 3,000 rounds through it, loved it, had 100% intention of going into production after that. And then 2 months later, the world melted down and COVID happened, and it just became, for us, barrels was the one thing that we were relying on somebody else for. And so getting a new barrel made in any sort of volume became really difficult. And so we ended up actually shelving the project just because demand was so great for existing products that we had out there, it didn't make sense. And so we picked this back up last 6 months. It's in production now, and it's gonna, the T&E units are shipping now to reviewers, and then in March it'll be available. But it's kind of a long-winded answer. Before even getting to that point, there's probably a year and a half.
So you don't just go in the back and say, whip me together something badass. It takes a little bit more effort than that. Guys, this is sick. Side charger. Can't beat that. I mean.
Yeah. So it's a roller delayed, and the most famous roller delay is MP5. It's kind of an updated modern take on that, where you have all of the AR ergonomics. That's our standard 9mm AR lower. It's going to accept all your standard triggers and all your accessories in there. Obviously runs on Glock magazines, and then 3-lug suppressor ready right out of the box. It's a really, really pleasant suppressed experience.
You don't need this. I'll just. This is great. I think it looks phenomenal,
Thank you.
I think it's very indicative of your evolution, and it's as clean a gun as I've ever seen you produce, and also the innovations you've made in stocks and things that you've done, and how you've approached even manufacturing these things has been phenomenal, because you're actually able to take them to market, which most people are not, which I find insanely interesting in the gun industry. You'll see a lot of cool stuff at these shows, but not a lot of people actually have it hit the market. So this will, and I suggest everybody go out and pick one up. Eric K said, cut me in for a 50 cal PCC. I don't know if we can make that happen, Eric. That's a bit much. That's probably not going to happen anytime soon.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen unless we have.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. 3 round.
I'm going to let somebody else run with that one, though.
The tolerances will be a little tough on that, I think. Possibly.
Yeah.
Now, SHOT Show happens. We're here now, probably 12 years later from when we've met and when we started, kind of hanging out. How much has the company grown, and how important are the employees to you, and what does it mean to you to see the company grow like that?
It's grown tremendously. So we've continued to grow year after year, and obviously these last 2 years, when the riots happened, its demand for guns completely took off, and we doubled again. And for the last 2 years, we keep doubling and getting bigger. But we've got a really good core group. I would say of about 5 to 10 people that have been there, if not day one, pretty close on that they came on, and we've been able to bring additional people in the fold that they kind of buy into the vision, and they're willing to maybe forego some stuff early on to get a bigger piece later.
Listen to you. It's amazing.
You like that?
Yeah, I do. Now, the company grows. It has to be amazing for you to walk around and say, holy shit, look where we are and look where we were. Mm-hmm. I mean, at what point did you realize, okay, we really have something here?
It's a difficult thing, because I feel like I see it before it materializes. And so for me, while I'll take the credit you're giving me, I'm very impatient, so I always think that we should be further along than we are. And I keep pressing towards that.
50 million.
Is there a number that it's just to continue to grow it? And it's not just about sales, as you know, though. This is legacy for me. And really, when I say it's for me, it's for my family and my grandfather who got me into this. My kids will be here, and it's just something cool that, we get to, be a part of this industry, which, again,
it's something that'll live longer than you.
That's it. And
that's it.
That's it.
I said to somebody one time, right? I'll tell 2 stories, because I got to get to your story.
You got to get to that.
I got to get to your story. So I told people this when we first when we first started doing the show, I went to a few brands and I talked to them, obviously, like I told a lot of friends this is the way I was going. And I said to them, I said, look, this is the stage of the game where all of our ages wrapped into it, where it's like you have to start working with the people you want to show up to your fucking funeral.
Yeah.
You have to start working with the people that you want to have a long-term relationship, where it's not necessarily about the money. It's about the message. It's about the building of a narrative. It's about the building of a context. And I felt like I had reached this point with this where I was like, this has to be my thing for us.
Yeah.
So we have something that lives after that tells our story.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when I'm dead and gone, if I die at 500 episodes, I have 500 conversations I've had with people to leave behind.
Yeah.
And I'm going to write in the books coming out and all that stuff we talked about, which I've been talking about, 50 lessons learned basically in the first 500 episodes and the next 1,000. And that's what you start thinking about, the long game.
It is.
And that's what's hard for people to understand. I realize with owners like yourself, it's easier to have that conversation. With corporations, a little tougher. But understanding legacy and what you want that long-term narrative to look like and what you want to, the conversations you want to have leave behind and just the things you want to talk about and let people know you were passionate about the issues or you did talk up about that. I mean, our grandparents never had these opportunities to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just wanted to create it because I'd go back and listen to those tapes all day.
Oh, man. The amount of knowledge that we probably lost from people that just never had an avenue like this where it was documented and put on history and you could go back and just learn lessons from somebody that's already gone through it.
And I felt like our industry was too invasive. It was always about the gun. And that's not marketing.
Yeah.
That's not marketing. And that better than anybody. And companies get caught up in that. And I think that's a fruitless mission. I don't think that's what it's really all about.
Yeah, I will say that, what you stand for is more important than what you sell, right? So what are the company's beliefs? What do they believe in? What does this mean to them is a lot more important than what widget they happen to be selling.
I agree. Now, I got to get to the good story. I got to get to the juice. Let me see how much time I have left. All right, we started at... We're all right? We're good.
I'm moving in, so I got as much time as you need.
No, we're good.
I'm gonna be the resident.
You should. We're gonna put in a cot. We'll get a food truck. We'll just live here.
That's already more than I need.
We'll shower out back. I'll hose you down. So I'm at the booths one year. Got to tell this story. I'm at the booths one year. I'm walking around Chacho. And I say, hey, we got to go by Rich's. He was always in this weird...
I was in the basement.
Yeah, you were in the fucking the police section. It was always like they put you in like an internment camp. That's what I'm trying to say. Like it's like you're not on the floor. So I go up to the booth, right? And this is the first year he had it's probably one of the first years you had like a crew there. Like you weren't.
It wasn't my wife and.
Yeah, it wasn't like you and a prayer. So he has like a crew there, and I see this old guy, and I'm thinking like, it's got to be Rich's investor. This has to be like the guy running the show, because I'm like, there's no gray hair around the booth ever, right? But finally, there's some gray hair. So I'm like, Rich, who's this guy? And I get walking around. He's like, it's just my father-in-law. He tags along. I go, what? He goes, yeah, I just tell people he owns the place, and it adds a little gray hair so people don't think I'm like a kid running the company. It's hilarious. It was one of the best interactions I've ever had on the floor, and I just looked at him like, that's so genius. I just point at him and say he's the owner.
It worked for so many reasons. And then if there was somebody coming up trying to sell me something, I'd be like, well, you actually have to speak to the owner. He's right there. And he would sit there and he would talk to him, give him as much time as they thought. And they thought they had a sale.
Hours. And he was just happy to be there.
He was just happy to be there. He's a big time gun enthusiast, so he loved coming.
Well, you could tell, and he was in on the shtick. I don't want to say but he was in on the shtick. He was in on the he's like, come over here. I'll give you my card. You should have had cards printed up for him.
We had cards, and so he doesn't come here anymore. But his spirit lives on, because if people are trying to sell us something, I'm like, well, who you want to speak to is Dermot. He's not here right now, so let me get your information.
We'll make sure. Yeah. Oh my God. It was one of the most genius moves you've ever pulled off at a show. And you had to see it to appreciate it in action. It was so awesome. Unbelievable. What a concept. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to be like, meet this guy. I'm going to get some guy in a wheelchair that people really feel bad for. We're going to get somebody. We'll figure it out. But it's going to be interesting. What do you think of the range day? You think they're going to be able to pull that off every year now?
So I've heard that this is going to be, obviously the people putting it on are going to tell you this, right? But and maybe it's because it's an outdoor event. It's the busiest they've said it's going to be, that they've seen it in
the problem I have
years.
with range days in the gun business, Rich, is that people don't understand. They're not media gets.
Yeah.
and they sell them as the problem. I don't have a problem with any of these activities. I have a problem with how they package them. Mm-hmm. It's not a media event.
You could break it up into two portions. So this year is different because there's no international traffic. But for us, we do a lot of sales internationally. And so the afternoons would be a lot of those international buyers where
they want to actually test it.
They want to test it. And I'm going to support this for the next 5 years. I want to know, I'm going to run a bunch of mags through it and at least you can get my hands on it before I put my order in. And then media, I think for a company like us, you get it. I think there's some people that might be a little bit guarded in the media and they want to shoot it first and they're like, okay, yeah, I'll take a gun or I'll shoot it. But it's really what you make of it. Uh-huh. You know, you're not going to go in there and just all of a sudden have all these articles and videos on it just because you showed up. It really is like anything. It's what you put into it.
Well, because what people don't realize is you come up to the booth, you do a full auto mag dump. A guy like certain people are going to want deals to do stuff. Certain writers are going to want deals to do stuff. There's still layers. Now, the opportunity might be there to get in front of them at these events, but I think for what people pay, I think there should be more of an option, late, not just like, hey, you set up a booth and pray.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it is. We're going to sell you real estate we don't own at a price that's ridiculous and not give you any guarantees whatsoever.
Yeah.
You would never make that investment ever any other time in your life. You as a businessman.
Yeah.
It's like people say all the time, they're like, what do I get out of it? I'm like, what do you get out of a billboard?
Yeah.
I'm like, people say crazy stuff. Now, the business is obviously definitely evolving, and we've seen so many huge changes, and you've been a big part of them. Where does it go from here? And I want to get to a little bit of the national debate, but where do you see it going in the next 3 or 5 years with the Metaverse and everything coming in? I mean, I'm curious to see what your vision will be.
So I would say firearms are suited really well for the Metaverse, only because every kid grows up playing Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Right? So they're used to using guns, right, in video games. And so it's a logical next step that they would take part in the Metaverse and it would play a good role. Now, do I think that we have the knowledge in the industry to make that happen? No. I think it's going to take some companies that are already in that space that have an appreciation for the Second Amendment or firearms to step up, because given what we do, we're often excluded from all of these social channels, right? We're one of those businesses that's prohibited from technically doing anything, right? Just having an Instagram or a Facebook page.
Mainstream advertising.
It is a violation of it. So how are we going to be allowed into that fold, and in which Metaverse has become the ultimate winner? I don't know any of that. I'm hoping there's
They'll probably be combined or bought out at some point.
It's got to happen, right? You can't have, I think there's 256 or 300 something now, right?
It hasn't been consolidated yet. I think I've said this on this show, Rich. I think there's our generation, and then there's a massive disconnect at the baby boomer level, at the 55, 65, 75. And those are the people that are in charge right now. And if you talk to those people, they look at us like we're crazy when we bring this stuff up.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about. Now, for us, I think as far as the Metaverse goes, we're of a generation where we'll try anything once. We'll probably fuck around with it, but I don't think we'll be totally bought in.
For sure.
I think the generation after us will be more likely to be a full part of it. It doesn't mean that we don't enjoy it, but we were the generation that we played Nintendo, we played Sega, and then like when we got kind of sick of it, we put it down for a while. Like we'll dabble.
Yeah.
We'll dabble in it. Are we going to be all in on it? Probably not necessarily, but we're the bridge between, and we can see that clearly. Now, the generation before us, I'll tell everybody listening, and you'll agree, they're not even putting the headset on.
Yeah.
90% of them. They don't even want to hear it. They don't even want to hear NFT. They don't want to hear Bitcoin. They don't want to hear nothing. I look at you, and I think you'll be the first guy that'll take Bitcoin as payment.
For sure.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that younger generation is obviously more open to everything because they grew up with it. Exactly like you said, they didn't have the internet. Whereas, for us, that was something that happened in our lifetime.
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting. And again, I think there's a awesome opportunity for real life experiences right now, especially with COVID. I think that showed a lot of people that, hey, I could get out, I could do something. And it brought a lot more people into not only the firearm space, but overlanding, camping, just doing stuff in the outdoors. And people are like, wow, this is really, really cool. Yeah. And so it's good for the industry, if you could marriage, those two things, the Metaverse and those real life experiences, I think you're going to come out on top. But
I think COVID exacerbated a lot of things, and I think it pushed a lot of things forward. I don't think I would have had the success I've had without it. I think it came in fast and furious, ferocious, and everybody started absorbing all this content. But what I try to explain to owners is the content is the future. The content is the ROI. The content is what you're going to feed on, because as a brand, everybody's looking now for programming. And I think what we're going to go to is a place where you're going to have people that are going to offer entertainment and programming on every type of level. And if you're not doing it and you're seeing like this, if you're not doing it, I think you're going to be behind. And I think you're going to have to either partner with people that do or have some foot in it, because it's just coming in too fast. And that's audio, that's video. I said to somebody the other day, how many audio devices do you have in your house? And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, you're wearing an Apple Watch. That's one. You have an Apple phone. They have Siri. Do you have an Alexa? Do you have a Google Home? Do you know, whatever you have in your, and we all have them now. And TVs are becoming audio based, and everybody's clipping the cord. There's going to be no more cable TV. It's just getting crazy. I said it to somebody the other day. I think it's what's her face at MSNBC? What the hell is her name? That one that
Rachel
Maddow, the lesbian Maddow. Rachel Maddow. She's like, her contract's up, and if like she walked and Tucker walked, it would kill national TV, because they say like Rogan's here, and then you have these two other tiers. I mean, it's fucking crazy.
It's incredible though that the person producing the content can control that, right? So it puts you in a position where you should be the person who's actually the creative force and doing behind it, owns the media, right, and the outlet. And so it's really smart. You know, one of the things that we did, Matt, who's with me today, our videographer.
Shout out to Matt.
I brought him in here because, you know, he does incredible video, and I wanted to get control, you know, move away so much from relying on reviews and being able to craft those stories in-house. One of the things that we put out over the last year was this At the Ready series, where we document trainers, people in the industry, and kind of go behind the scenes, see what makes them tick, see what it's like to, you know, what's their day-to-day, their 9 to 5, like kind of look behind what people post on Instagram, and the idea to keep continuing evolving. And we chose video as the medium, you know, a lot to Matt and his ability, but I think for us, I just love that format.
Palatable clips, palatable snippets and cut-ups, and being able to give, like, everybody knows, like, the running joke in the industry is everybody knows the gun goes bang. So we get it, right? That's why I always joke, like, all marketing departments should admit failure the moment they start doing mag dumps in the desert. It's over. It's like hip hop night at a club. It's over. It's over. Shut the club down. It's over. So if you've resorted to like, hey, Rich, I have a great marketing idea. We're going to go to the desert and we're going to dump a bunch of mags. You may as well just shut it down. And you and I have talked about that a lot. It's because people want to see the fabric. I joked with a couple companies I've worked with, and I think you know I've said this. I said, the moment we set up a reality TV show in a gun company, then you'll see the real picture. And it's already happened at the mainstream level. It just has to be done at our level, because that's what people want to see. They want to follow the brand.
Yeah, they want to see behind the scenes. What's it like day to day? You know, and all you get on Instagram and Facebook is obviously the best.
Yeah,
right?
And the reviews have gotten way too cheesy. We were just talking offline about Springfield. What a shame it happened to them. You know, somebody was doing a review for them. I posted in my stories, you guys, if you want to take a look. But some guy was doing like a 100-round review, and he ended up selling the gun on Gunbroker, the new Springfield. I forget the name of it. It's like the Archangel or whatever the fuck they call it. But it's something. And then they were just selling it on Gunbroker after a review. Now, I mean, Dave, there's no written rules, but that's got to go against. Right? You're the senior man here.
Yeah, that's definitely bad form.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even if they gave it to you, even if you bought it at a, writer's discount a lot of times.
Writer's discount? That's some shit you made up.
2 days
Writer's
later
discount.
doesn't bode well for the gun or the brand that you didn't want to at least hold on to it for a period of time.
Don't fall for the writer's discount when Dave comes to see you. Hey, you got a writer's discount? It's called free, motherfucker.
Easy now. Easy now. I know where the skeletons are buried.
Yeah, now. Exactly.
It's tough because you got a new gun that you're bringing to market, right? You want to all of a sudden
you want to get the air cover.
You got to canvas it, right? Because what's somebody going to do? They're going to, let me go to YouTube and see a review. And what are they going to see on day one? So the first minute the guns are in the stores, there's already 100 videos, right? And they're all glowing reviews. That's what you're trying to do, and you can't blame them for wanting to do that. And this is a tough situation for them, but obviously it's bound to happen.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. The reviewers, I just think the review game in the industry has gotten a little bit hokey over time. I think it'll clean itself up because I know some of those guys and I think they'll get it right. I just think they have to streamline, they have to make it a little bit more transparent. And look, if you don't like something out there, maybe you just send it back, but let's get some order in the review game.
And there's some good people in the doing reviews right now.
I like
us and you know.
Yeah, I like a lot of guys. There's a lot of good guys out there. I know you've worked with a few in the past, and I think good owners always say, you know, hey, try my product. If you like it, you know, do a review. We support that.
Yep.
If you don't like it, respectfully, you know, we'd ask that you try to give the best version of that you can, or send it back, and it's no harm, no foul.
And we want to learn from that too, right? So I'm not somebody who's going to put it out there and this is the be all end all. You know, all products go through an evolution, and listening to that feedback from someone who's knowledgeable and
every good reviewer doesn't have a YouTube page, and every YouTuber isn't a good reviewer.
That's a great way of putting it.
That's the bottom line. I mean, to me, that's what I say, and I think Dave, you'd echo that because there's a lot of good guys that don't have giant YouTube followings that.
No, it must be true because I don't have a YouTube page.
There you go.
I'm a great reviewer. So I agree with that 100%.
My example is in the booth.
You nailed it. I'm good.
Writer's discount. So anyway.
Yeah, I'm just going to leave this one here for you.
Yeah,
right?
just leave it here. Writer's discount.
I get to save on shipping.
I love what you've done. I love what you've done with the brand.
Thank you.
Where does the brand go from here? And what's the next steps?
Yeah, so it's continued innovation. You know, the new product coming on, the MDP, kind of steps in that direction. Obviously, we brought out 5.56 300 Blackout, and then we've got some other platforms you'll see in the years to come around that. But a lot of innovation, kind of trying to push stuff forward along the lines of what we're doing. And you know, obviously, when we talked off air, you can hold one of our guns with your eyes closed. You can be like, oh, this is an Angstadt. The same way you can a B&T or a SIG, right? Every firearm kind of resembles that design crew. But I think it's building out experiences, doing more media in-house, trying to tell more stories, and not just our story. You know, I think we're in a good position like you are, where you can tell the story of so many other people that, you know, maybe they do training or they do whatever. They're in a, you know, related field to us, but they're just such good people and have interesting stories and you know, having a platform where you can put them out.
Yeah.
I think that's,
and you got to develop it, and it takes time. And you know, there's no microwave to the top.
There's no,
you know that there's no microwave to the top. Maybe over 20 years you get a crumb. That's how it works. That's how it works. You know, it's crazy. Now, the kind of one of the last questions I want to ask you, because I'm really curious your answer here. When you look around the industry, and I know you do your due diligence, and I know you have everybody else's gun. Everybody does it. What do you see out there that's innovative? I've said it for the last few years. I think the only place we've seen huge strides in this business has been in soft goods in our lifetime in the business. Because like I said, at least you don't have to walk down the street looking like a fucking idiot anymore. But soft goods, backpacks, things like that, I've seen a lot of growth in. When you look out there in the marketplace, what do you see? And who's had that growth?
Honestly, I wouldn't point to a manufacturer right now. I'd point to some of the...
Maybe a segment.
You had, you know, Big Daddy on here the other day. So I think looking at some of the retailers and the way that they're doing it, especially the online retailers, you know, that come in here and they're treating it differently because maybe they didn't grow up and it was their dad's gun store or something like this, and they just took it over, but they took it from a media perspective first. You know, local to us is Classic Firearms. You know, they've got a huge YouTube channel. They do a lot of good stuff, you know, on the media side, but that's somebody that's not necessarily a manufacturer, but looking, you know, they get to touch all of the manufacturers and how they're doing it creatively, I think is pretty cool. I think
there's a lot of good that's coming out of the retailers right now. They're intriguing, whether it's Big Daddy, whether it's Cheaper Than Dirt, whether it's any of these spaces. I think that they were ahead when whether it's they got into blogging, some of these other areas. All of them have their redeeming qualities. We haven't seen one bring it all together to kind of coalesce in that perfect pot. Like I was talking to the Big Daddy guys and I said, you know, and I'll be very candid with it. I said, you guys have to start to find a way to harness the people that come to your events and have them in a space that's comfortable to them. And they said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you had the Hodge twins out. Does it benefit you to have the Hodge twins do a full auto mag dump, or does it benefit you to be on the Hodge twins podcast?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you could see the light bulb go off. I said, you know, me showing up and doing a mag dump, you're not going to get any, nobody cares.
Yeah.
I wouldn't care about that. Nobody cares. You know, it has to be something that speaks to those platforms and those mediums. I think what you will see sooner rather than later, for example, like you take like a Volkortsen, Scott Volkortsen. He's got somebody like 22 Plinkster out there doing all these ads. What these companies have to start to do is they have to identify who the 22 Plinkster is in their universe, and they need to just go and buy him.
Yeah.
And they need to say, we need you to be here. So this guy can do all the content that he wants 24 hours a day, unless the owner wants to take up that strain.
Yeah.
Because he can run the camera all day, but who's going to stand in front of it?
Yeah.
And what brands have to forget, they need to get away from that whole, well, it's too much benefit to Rich or it's too much benefit to John. Does Tucker Carlson and any of those guys say the same thing?
Yeah.
It's Fox News, then it's the Tucker Carlson show. So you have to have these avenues built out. So whether you do a series like you're talking about, I said it when Cops came up for grabs, when everybody bailed on Cops, I said the first brand that goes and buys Cops will be successful. And who did it? Fox News.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And streaming, because that's an instant embedded audience. It's not about the person. Everybody gets their ego involved in it. Like I don't want to push this person up because
it's a good way of putting it.
My dick doesn't measure properly or something.
Companies are worried that they're going to find that person, grow them, and that person's going to leave, right? And it's such a scarcity mindset to have. It's like they probably will. They're going to give you, but for 2 years or however long, you had that person promoting and building your brand, and you learned from and got to grow, and you should be happy for that.
And it doesn't have to be a leave thing. Yeah. If you go to some of these guys and you work out a sweetheart deal saying like, I don't care what you make off your YouTube and this and that, but I want you to make videos exclusive for me. And if you decide to leave, that exclusivity goes away, meaning I won't air it on my channel and I won't support you. But it's a symbiotic one because you're giving them a base pay. You have to understand when the influencers are, but you have to make it a tough decision for them.
Yeah.
You can't make it easy. Yeah. Dave and I have talked about this. There's times I've left companies that the companies could have put me in bad spots if they said, you know, hey, we want to keep the show or we want to do this. But you have to have the vision to see that end game.
Yeah.
And the problem is they have to meet in the middle. You have to have the right. And I think your generation, our generation will have that as time goes on. You'll identify maybe, like I said, because some of this stuff, because in the EP world, this would look really good. Maybe it's a Byron Rogers. Maybe it's we've seen these types of incarnations before. And I think that we're going to get back to those very, very quickly in this business because who's going to put the content?
Yeah. It really is. More companies have to start producing their own content, or like you said, bring in that ambassador, right? The people that you believe in them, give them the funds to do it, support them, and let them create that.
The rule of thumb's simple. If you're not in the space, pay someone who is. Have a finger in it, because one day your marketing guy might want to pick the brain of that guy or vice versa, or get into that space. So you have to have the knowledge and you have to have the quote unquote consulting around that, you know, so you're not spending the money over and over again and wasting it. Do it right once.
And you got to know if you're on the owner of the company or on the company side, you got to know what you want to get out of it, right? So a lot of companies have no idea what they want to get out of it. And on the influencer side, a lot of those people don't know what they want out of it, right? They just want something, but you know, you have to approach it like you would if you were a consultant. What are you selling the company? You know, show them some data, show them what you're going to do for them, you know, and then I think at some point there's a little bit of trust, but it's pretty easy early on to see what they're creating.
Oh, their motive and I mean,
and you learn people.
What are your thoughts? I want to ask you is, what are your thoughts on everything going on in the universe? We just saw Kyle Rittenhouse, that situation. Does the world drive you crazy, or are you just more or less like, we're going to keep moving forward and we're not even going to bother with looking at any of that? Take the Dana White approach. We're going to still move forward.
I mean, it's always going to be something, right? You always do have to
going forward.
Keep moving forward. We're going to keep getting more and more polarized, right? Because that seems to be the agenda, is everybody gets, you know, in their own little camps, and that's where they're going to stay. But you know, I think over the last year and a half, I think it's 8 million new gun owners came into the industry. And those weren't, you know, people on the right that grew up around guns. These are all people that were probably middle of the road, you know, never thought about owning a firearm, probably mocked people that did.
A lot of Democrats.
And all of a sudden their eyes were open, right? And the best part is, you know, the more people that come into the fold, it just normalizes gun ownership, right? You know, me owning a gun is no different than me owning a car, something. Right? It's a tool. I use it to do a job. It's there to protect me if I need it. But I think more and more people are coming to that realization. I think the industry is going to continue to grow. And I think if we do a good job of melding the shooting sports, the outdoor sports, getting all those communities to kind of come together, I think we can continue to grow it.
I try to appeal to all the owners all the time and say, but you got to make it less invasive, guys. I know you love that the rail is a little bit lighter. I know you love that you took, 3 centimeters of fucking filth off the gun.
It's engineers designing your marketing, right?
It's engineers designing the marketing. You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Nobody cares about that.
Yeah.
That can't be the pitch, especially to the new crowd. I'm not saying that there's not guys out there that are ballisticians and totally into the specs of it and the aero precision design initiative, whatever the fuck language you want to use.
You have to sell the coolest shit you do with the product, not the product, right?
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah, and you have to sell, eventually we'll be selling the experience.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be something that'll be like, hey, go online and buy an Angstadt because the process is so fucking cool, and eventually I'm sure you'll have avatars that'll picture you with the gun and all that stuff's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
Can't stop it.
It's been, it's not implemented yet, but one of our rocks over this last 2 quarters is the onboarding, customer onboarding. How do we bring somebody who goes into a store, maybe they buy our gun, maybe they buy a bolt carrier, how do we bring them into the fold in the community and get them to be an advocate for our brand?
Well, I asked a brand, a very big, notable one, I won't say who, I said, how do you know who spent $5,000 with you? They looked at me like I had 10 heads. Like, why would we want to know that? I'm like, who's bought multiple products?
Yeah.
I'm like, at 1 product, they're a customer. At 2 or 3, they're a client at that point. Yeah. So you really need to look at who's purchased 2 and 3 of our product, even if it is a bulk order, and figure out what are we doing to garner that customer base? How are we speaking to? Is that our best customer base? Maybe it's Leo. Maybe it's Mill. Yeah. Those are easy demographics to identify. But maybe it's Joey and wherever in Poughkeepsie. Why are we doing so well there? That's a bad example. But maybe it's some guy in Arizona. Why are we doing good in that area? And what can we be doing in other areas? And this is where the micro events come in. We don't sell a lot in the Pacific Northwest corridor. Historically, it's a tough area to sell guns. That's why TriggerCon's been such a thing, what John Wong does up there. Maybe it's we need to do more in that community. Maybe we need a street team there. Maybe we need to send some people out. That's where it's going, Rich. It's a little bit back to our childhood. At the same time, you're going to need street feet, but at the same time, it's going to be about the content.
Yeah. And like you said, there's no microwave. I mean, all of that is work, right? Digging through data, finding out what's consistent. Why are you succeeding in one region versus another? How do you apply that to that region? It's, it's a marriage of kind of the science behind all of the analytics and then also the creative, going back to telling your story, owning your media. I mean, it's the way it should be in marketing.
100%. Listen, I love having you.
I love being here.
Listen, give me an announcement. You're going to be at SHOT. Where are you going to be next? What's going on with you guys next? Anything?
No, nothing.
Private range day in Area 51.
So we're going back to experiences, right? Yep. We're talking with some of the ranges. So we have the luxury of having really good relationships with, the largest ranges around the U.S. and stuff. And thinking how we can create cool experiences, car shows, ranges, bourbon tastings, all kind of stuff. Just bringing people that, to your point, kind of fit that demographic or might have tastes that push them into what we sell, and then trying to create that incredible experience for
I think we got to get you out of your shell and get you in front of the camera more. He's good. I think we got to get him to do more. I don't know that you will because you were like
this
a
is
recluse.
it. Then I get shipped back in the box till next shot.
Right? No,
that's how you see me.
The winder only goes for 59 minutes, guys. We have to turn him off. Listen, I love having you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming out. Everybody go check out Angstadt Arms. The links have been shared down below. I know, listen, guys, they're beautiful fucking guns. Go check them out. I'm telling you. If you like any PCC stuff, go check it out. Buy 5 of them, at least, right?
10 maybe.
10? Yeah, put in a bulk order. Yeah. Get some for the whole family.
Discount pricing.
Discount pricing. Are you going to be doing any, when's the next launch?
So MDP is going to be shipping in March, right? Okay. That'll be the big one. Obviously, we've got the 5.56 and 300 Blackout line that's already in market right now.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah, we'll get you some nice ones for the wall.
You got anything to add back there?
No, I'm
Captain
open for reviews, but I send them all back too because
he gets that right.
It's a writer's discount. That was the best fucking line you tried to sneak in. I had to come back. Hey, everybody out there, and I know some of the geeks and gamers are in here. Guys, start using that line, the writer's discount.
There you go.
There you go. Damn. Fucking awesome. I'm going to start saying that. I'm going to call it the podcast. You get a podcast discount.
Podcast discount.
That's it. Listen, I appreciate it. And thank you for coming in.
No, thank you for having me.
I'm glad you love it here. Hey, thank you to all the sponsors. Head over to the website, leave reviews, do everything. Guys, it's SHOT Show week. Give me a fucking break. We're out.